Our guest today is Darrell Heaps, the CEO and founder of Q4. Q4 is an investor relations platform based up in Toronto. Q4 helps many companies, all of its clients, with their investor relations programs, including their IR webpage. I guess I've known Darrell as long as he's been running that company, since 2006, because I feel like I've known him forever. He's a true visionary in the IR space. I'm Broc Romanek, today on Zippy Point. So Darrell, I can't believe it's probably been at least 5 years since we've seen each other. I remember at a time when I would go to a speaking engagement and you'd be on either the same panel or the panel before me, and we would keep running into each other in all different types of cities. But it's been 5 years, so I'd like to hear. I'm sure Q4 continues to evolve as you always have. What's the latest?
Yeah, well, Broc, thanks for reaching out, and it's wonderful to reconnect with you. And yeah, I think the 5 years certainly has gone by very quickly. But I do remember those panels as well, and I'm totally missing being able to be on panels and see people and everything. But yeah, it's great to chat with you. So I guess with Q4, like when we first started it, it was very focused on, our first products were really focused on the web side of things. So having a platform that that public companies and the IR function could use to manage everything they're doing across their investor websites. And our vision for the business was always that was really the initial platform by which we could then look at what are the other areas that we could apply our technology to and our software and our services ability to help IR teams in other areas. So then we went from really web, and then the next piece was into virtual events, mostly handling earnings calls. So starting to do earnings calls, and we started to expand into that. And then around, it was like in late 2015, early 2016, this is probably like around the last time we talked, we started to get into analytics. So looking at analytics, stock surveillance, and started building out our own market data platform, which is really kind of a CRM and analytics platform. With the idea being, how can we take all of the workflow associated to IR and everything they go through? And the way we think about it is IR is like a 3-month-long job that repeats 4 times a year. And kind of connect all of that into one platform to really help our clients. Really, the way that we think about it, like our purpose is to help our clients win in the capital markets. And what that means is drive premium valuation. Because the way that we look at it is that if you take kind of 2 companies that are essentially identical from a fundamental perspective, same industry, same financial profile, one is exceptional at investor relations from the CEO down, because being exceptional at IR is not just about the IR team, it's really like a culture. And then that's similar, the other company is exceptionally poor at investor relations. You know, the way we've always thought about it is that there's about a 30% delta in valuation between those 2 companies. We actually saw research that came out recently from IHS Markit that I think their findings were like a 25% delta between the 2. So we really always felt that they're doing this well has a material impact on valuation. So we've been really working on that and bringing everything together. And thankfully, the business has been able to kind of continue to grow quite well over the last 5 years. But our larger kind of vision in terms of what it is that we want to do is how can we help our corporate clients be more efficient in connectivity over to the buy side and the sell side? How can we look at new ways and from a platform perspective to enable connectivity? So going beyond targeting. So a typical use case in IR is, I need new investors. Well, who should I target? And for a long time, we had a lot of work to say, here's who you should meet with. So algorithms and technical stuff to say, okay, this is your company. Here's the investors you should be targeting. But then we've been really thinking about how can we go beyond that? How can we facilitate that once they know who they need to meet with from a platform perspective and a data perspective, how can we facilitate the kind of connectivity to those folks? So we've been working on a bunch of things. We have a lot of folks on the buy side that have been very helpful with us in terms of trying to figure that out. And then as we entered into COVID, that's where things have really changed. So, if we look at the huge impact has been the virtual experience that, just like you and I, in kind of previous times, maybe we would have got together for a coffee somewhere or been on a panel or something. But this is the work experience now, is virtual. And so what we saw is our business changed pretty significantly during COVID. So from the middle of March, just the virtual events part of our business that initially, as I mentioned, was primarily earnings, the use cases have just expanded dramatically. So we've gone from just like earnings to investor days, analyst days, town halls, NDRs, AGMs, like every single type of meeting, both on the corporate side, but then also with the sell side and the buy side, as all of their meetings have also gone virtual. So what we're seeing is what we feel is very much like a rewiring of how the market works, because there was an incredible amount of kind of inefficiency from everything being done in person. So you think of like a road show or like an NDR. So a corporate kind of tees up an NDR, works with either the banks or does some on their own, depending upon the company, all these different factors. But the challenge in doing an NDR is it's geographically based, and it takes a huge amount of time logistically to handle it. So you're going to go to Boston. Well, you got to go, okay, you're going to go see Fidelity, hopefully. And then it's like, well, who else can I see in Boston? So your targeting efforts and your engagement is like focused geographically. And then you have to get, your management team on a plane and in a car and hotels and all that stuff. And they have to kind of take their attention off the business. But now what we're seeing is the geographic component is removed. So companies can look at it and say, okay, I'm going to meet with someone in Boston, in San Francisco, in London, and in Australia, and then I'm going to have lunch. And I think that is something like the degree of efficiency that's coming is expanding the capital pool out there. So when companies think about the investors that they can go after, they're no longer kind of constrained in the same way they were. And there's a long list of kind of use cases like that just show that this world that we're operating in is actually bringing unintended efficiencies into the capital markets. And so when we're looking at it, we think that there is tremendous opportunity to serve all of those use cases, but also that this isn't a world, the future doesn't exist where it's like once COVID is solved, that it's just like, okay, back to all physical meetings, back to travel, et cetera, because the productivity bar has gone up so much that those that compete are going to be the ones operating at that high productivity level. So I think that that's going to cause this kind of ongoing adoption of this virtual work experience is something that we think is absolutely here to stay. So we think, I know this is a long-winded answer to your question, but we think that there's a tremendous amount that we can help corporates that we're continuing to do, and we also see that there's on a similar basis helping folks on the sell side and the buy side in this new virtual world is something that we think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity to continue growing the business for years to come.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because there are all those benefits, and I agree with you wholeheartedly that for informational purposes, for the acquaintances, that all works. But for people that need to be trained, co-workers, mentoring, where in the old age you would be able to pop into someone's office or just learn by observing, that's going to be more difficult, I think, on Zoom. And then, of course, to develop deeper relationships. But, we're humans, we're going to evolve, and maybe you will be able to have a deeper relationship through these computer screens. Because you and I
think that's a good point.
Connected, but for this Zoom call right now. So
no, I think that's a really good point, that I think it's understanding what are the aspects of kind of in-person interactions that are really very valuable, that are worth the investments in logistics around it. The crazy thing is I would have never thought that this would be the case, but like at Q4, we have hired and onboarded close to 100 people since the beginning of COVID. Wow. All virtual. They've never met anyone else personally. So if we would have had this conversation like a year ago, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. That can't be done. But and the interesting thing is in some of the conversations that I've had with them is asking like, what's that experience been like? And it's actually, they feel in some respects, people would say like, it's great to be able to shadow someone, like, sit down but the flip of it is all the access to information, and that they have access to all of their team, and the efficiency that they have in terms of training. And we had to really lean in and kind of get all materials online, get everything has to be done right in order to enable that. You can't just, the world of like, okay, join, there's your desk, figure it out. Yeah, that doesn't work if people just sit there looking like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. But if by kind of putting things in place, it's been amazing. It's been amazing to see, you know, and then in the markets too. I think if you see all these IPOs coming, and I mean, you track the markets, and you know, the IPO market is absolutely on fire. Whether IPO, SPACs, direct listings with the finance, whatever the flavor, all these companies coming public. If you just imagine a world where, again, a year ago, if you said like, you're going to be able to go public and raise as much money as you need to raise, and you're not going to meet anyone, you're going to do it all over a video meeting, they'd be like,
and you're probably hiring a
impossible.
lot of people after you go public because you've got this influx of capital. Yeah. No, I mean, my oldest son is at a new team at Google, and he hasn't met any of them. He started after March, and it's worked fine.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. It's this world now. You've got these teams that are going public that, you know, rather than take 3 weeks and put the management team on the road and take all that time, they're meeting like 2 or 3 times the number of investors in like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
So, you know, you look at that and it's like, okay, how does that go back to, forget about that. Let's meet a third of the investors and take, you know, 10 times the amount of time. It's just it won't fit anymore. It doesn't fit anymore. At least that's my thesis.
No, I mean, I think
like
the only thing is getting on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange and ringing the bell. People still want to do that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's the thing. Like, I think that's what the hybrid world is. The things that really matter to do in person will, but the things that it doesn't matter as much and the efficiency is more valuable. I think that's where we're seeing this rewiring happening. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there's certain stuff, that's, you know,
it's not that important, but it's nice.
Well, no, it is though. It is. I mean, that's the human experience too. Like, you know, like that's what I'm sure it's the same for you. That's what I miss the most is, you know, like those social gatherings, you know, whether it's like an event, a party, those things when you get together with more than just the people in your bubble. Those are something that I certainly think will come back. But
I mean, just shaking someone's hand again will be such a weird experience, and you really will feel the energy of it. If it happens, maybe it won't ever happen again, unless you're, absolutely, of course, in a bubble with someone.
No, I met someone the other day, and they it was the first, and they put their hand out, and I shook it, and it was the first time I've shook someone's hand since like the middle of March. Yeah. Now I also like covered it in. Like I cleaned it very quickly after, but you're right. Like I'd forgotten what it's like to press the flesh, and it's a different experience. And I felt more connection. That it still feels weird to meet someone for the new time and be like, "Oh, hi."
Yeah, I had the same thing happen. A woman put out her hand, and I shook it, and I like really. I thought about it for days afterwards. How wonderful that was.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Darrell. This has been great. Good to catch up.
Pleasure. My pleasure. It's always great to speak, and look forward to the next time, and all the best.